There are three categories of arrhythmias: the supraventricular arrhythmias, arrhythmias that originate above the ventricles. There are conduction blocks, and then ventricular arrhythmias. This lecture is about conduction block. So, a conduction block is any obstruction of the flow of electricity along the pathway. So, this image demonstrates the pathways. And so, if a patient has an AV block, then they have an obstruction here just below or at the AV node. So at the AV block, as it suggests, the flow of electricity gets blocked at the AV node. If the patient has a bundle branch block, then if they have a right bundle branch block, then the obstruction of flow occurs on the right bundle branch, or a left bundle branch block, then the obstruction is occurring somewhere on the left bundle branch. Now, we're only going to talk about the AV blocks, but just know that there are bundle branch blocks also, and they occur at the bundle branches. Okay, the first AV block is called the first degree AV block, and this really isn't a block. It's actually just a delay in the conduction. So once the signal gets to the AV node, the signal gets delayed, and that is demonstrated in a PR interval longer than 0.2 seconds. So here I have a rhythm strip that demonstrates a first degree AV block, and this is demonstrating the PR interval is 0.34 seconds. So that is a first degree AV block. Okay, then there is a second degree AV block, and for this one, not every atrial impulse makes it to the ventricles. So the atrial to ventricle ratio is greater than 1 to 1. So there should be one P wave and one QRS complex, one atrial, one ventricle, a 1 to 1 ratio. But in a second degree AV block, the ratio could be 4 to 3 or 3 to 2. Whereas there's more atrial contractions than ventricle contractions. Now there's two types of second degree AV blocks. There's the Mobitz type 1 and a Mobitz type 2. Okay, so the first type, the Mobitz type 1 second degree AV block, is also referred to as Winky-Bach. Now I know that's a mouthful, but you just have to memorize it. Mobitz type 1 second degree AV block, also known as Winky-Bach. So for this one, the delay at the AV node becomes longer and longer until finally one gets blocked. So this strip is demonstrating that. So we have the PR interval here, the PR interval is getting longer, PR interval is getting longer, and then here we have a P wave and no QRS. So that is a second degree AV block, Mobitz type 1, also known as Winky-Bach. The second type of second degree AV block is the Mobitz type 2. And for this one, again, the atrial to ventricular contractions ratio is higher, but so there is a dropped beat. There's more atrial contractions than ventricular contractions, but there is no progressive lengthening of the PR interval. So again, you've got the PR, those intervals are the same, but then all of a sudden we have a P, but then no QRS complex. So there is a dropped beat, and so this is a Mobitz type 2 second degree AV block where there is a dropped beat, but no progressive lengthening of the PR interval. Okay, and then the third AV block is called the third degree AV block. And so for this one, there are no atrial impulses making it through to the ventricles. So this is also called complete heart block, and this patient would need a pacemaker. So here is an example of complete heart block. So it's demonstrating all of these P waves, P, 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 and they are at a normal rate. And then meanwhile, you have all of these QRS complexes, but they are at a different rate. So the atria and the ventricles are doing their own thing. The P waves are firing, or the atria are firing at its rate, at its own rate, 60 beats per minute, let's say. But the ventricles, they're firing at their own rate, which is usually, I don't know, 40 beats per minute. It's a lot slower. So again, the QRS, the ventricles are contracting, they're just contracting much slower, and the ventricles aren't contracting because of the atria. They're not getting their impulses from the atria because it's blocked. It's completely blocked at the AV node. Completely blocked at the AV node. So the ventricles are firing with its own intrinsic rate. So it has an area within the ventricle that is causing it to contract, but its rate is much slower. So again, this is what it looks like. So there's P waves and there are QRS waves, but they aren't associated with one another whatsoever. Complete heart block.